The House Guest, written and read by Stella Wulf. It was Percy Impecunious who did for the chatelaine. He waltzed right in without a qualm, or dollar, or rouble, or yen. He invited himself for the weekend, and stayed the entire month of June, saying, "Darling, I wish it were longer. It really would be such a boon." For breakfast he'd call out for lark's eggs, gently poached in a venison broth, with a side dish of truffled potatoes, topped off with a sabayon froth. Then after, he'd stroll in the garden, to hone up his keenness for lunch, and he'd pluck the prize rose for his fancy, then his fancy would take a whole bunch. How splendid they looked on the mantel! They charmingly covered the cracks, and they scented the air which was stifled, with the heating turned up to the max. Then after a leisurely soaking, in a bath bubbled up to the brim, he would drop his wet towel on the parquet and shout, "Is it time for a gin?" "Don't go to the trouble of cooking. I'm easily pleased," it is said. "Just a morsel of cheese is sufficient, and perhaps a small slice of brown bread." But the bottle appears to be empty. Shall I open another, my sweet? Or is it too late now for spirits? Let's break out the Chateau Lafitte. When the bread and the wine were defeated, and the cheese for the month was devoured, he'd say, "How about a digestive? And then I'll just pop for a shower. And maybe I'll take a siesta. My blood sugar's taken a dive. I have such a weak constitution. Have the girl come and wake me at 5. At 6 he'd be fainting with hunger, having eaten so lightly at lunch. But he'd rally with whisky and soda and a dish of green olives to munch. "You shouldn't have gone to such trouble." At dinner he always would cry, as he tucked into confit of goose legs and kidneys and raised veal pie. At 10 it was time for a nightcap. Just to settle the stomach, of course. I'm not used to such copious eating. I'm more of a bird than a horse. But when all the cupboards were empty, and the kitchen and larder were bare, and all that remained in the cellar was a bottle of Stone's ginger beer, he would pine for his own little haven, all the friends who held him so dear, and his bags would be packed with the gusto of a man being chased by a bear. My darling, I do hate to leave you, but I do really find it quite queer that you tear out your hair with such passion. There now, I'll see you next year.